Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be continuing with my little narrative series in Season 3. This one is all about the bigger engine, bigger problems. Excuse me, sir, I was driving here. So, of course, in my adventure of flying, I had flown the Piper Archer 3 for a little while and getting the hang of it. But, of course, I wanted something bigger, something I could actually bring people around in. And, of course, the club that I flew with, apparently the traffic is just out to kill me today. The club I flew with, of course, had the Cessna 182. This one right here, of course, is not the one that I got to go. This is the G1000. This is a nice modern one. It was an old school P model, but the big difference is, of course, was this is the first time in my life I was ever dealing with an aircraft that had more than 200 horsepower, which will put it in the high performance category. It also had a brand new handle. I had this lovely little blue one here, which I was new to. And of course, you had the cow flaps handle, which was directly below that one. When you combine all those with the fact that you now have an engine that's very powerful and it likes to get very hot, by the way, it made things more interesting. So interestingly enough, other than the usual learning how to land a plane that's like a 172 but way too heavy, it was really all about trying to manage this big engine that was on the front of this thing. Now, today's video is all dedicated to managing that big engine that's on the front of this thing. And of course, once we get up in the air here, we'll start taking a look at it. So the first thing you need to know about these engines is the fact they do not cool evenly. And one of the issues that they always had with this plane going on and on and on and on was the fact that the cylinders in the back would burn out at about twice the rate of the other cylinders on board. Now, for those of you who know this particular style Continental engine, that's okay because you can replace the cylinder. I mean, it's not okay to have to replace the cylinder. But the reality is it did give you the ability to basically swap them out. You basically unbolt it and stick the new one on, which is kind of nice. It just sucks that you have to replace, a $6,000 cylinder all the time with this particular plane. The other thing I learned about this plane when I was first getting started, of course, was something much, much heavier, was the importance of using flaps during takeoff. Now, normally when I was in anything with a 172 or an Archer, you really didn't touch the flaps unless you were landing. This thing likes flaps on takeoff, and it gives you a much, much flatter takeoff. The next thing I learned, of course, was if you don't set the trim at takeoff trim, and then you try to get in the air, you're going to find that you can't lift the nose off the ground. And that was brand new for me. I'd never experienced that before. So anyway, we're going to start by getting our engines, our cow flaps, all the way open for takeoff. We're going to make sure the takeoff trim is set correctly. I'm going to be using 2 clicks of flaps here. It's going to give us a little bit better liftoff capability. You'll see exactly what I mean when we get there. And we're good to go. The other thing that's a little different with this aircraft is because we are on a constant speed propeller now, one of the things that really surprised me is how you'll over-rev the engine if you accelerate too hard. So if I push the throttle forward like this, watch what happens with the RPM. See it? Did you see how it did the little and it starts to kind of oscillate as it kind of finds the center? That's the next thing that we learned with these engines, of course, is to be a little bit more careful with them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smoothly apply power this time. And the one thing you're not getting here is how aggressively this plane will jerk. It's not that it's trying to throw you out the left side of the window or anything like that, but it's the fact that you have this tremendous pull that suddenly grabs you. You see how the nose is really light with the flaps? Look at this. See that? Just like that, the thing lifts off the ground, and it's so much easier to get this thing airborne than which you would otherwise, especially if you didn't use flaps, especially if you're carrying passengers. So we open that up, and the next big thing we learn is when we're dealing with a high-performance engine is we have to go ahead and make sure we gently make adjustments to the power. Now, in a 182, generally what you're doing is you're going to be climbing with less than full power. Basically, it's kind of your continuous power. This version of the 182 is turbocharged, but that's okay because it doesn't stop us from putting it at the safe power position. So you can see I'm backing off my power a little bit. So right on the right there, you can see I'm at about 28 inches of mercury. It's about there, right there at the top of the green. And then what I'm going to do is I'm also going to back the RPM up a little bit as well. Now, the one I flew would be 25, basically 23 and 2450 as what you use. We're going to use 28 and 2340 here. Well, I like 2350, but welcome to trying to get the handle. By the way, you will drive yourself mad in a real plane trying to get the RPM correct. It's just never going to happen. Get over it, accept it. Some FADEC airplanes will have really good RPM control. So what I'm going to do now is that we're up in the air, is I've gotten rid of my flaps already. And we're just going to take a nice gentle turn to the right here. And we're going to start heading to the east. The next big thing I learned, of course, is the fact that aircraft like this tend to have a cruise climb. You know, when you're flying a 172 and learning on a 172, everything is 75 knots. That's the up speed. This thing, if you do 100 knots, it's a way smoother climb. And like your climb rate really isn't that badly compromised. You've got lots of power on this thing. So that also keeps your engine a lot cooler, which is going to be the ongoing problem with this engine forever. And I remember many times when I'd be flying back from Maryland and it'd be 90 degrees ground temperature and you couldn't get your engine cool enough. Like you'd have to pause to cool it off and then climb again just to keep it under 390 F. It's just different. So what I'm going to do, of course, I've got a nice turbulent summer day here. I'm going to kind of send ourselves towards the east. I'm going to go ahead and engage my automatic pilot. There we go. You can see we got roll and pitch hold there. It's just going to grab the wheel from us, which is awesome. You'll notice we have no flight director, by the way. That makes sense. You wouldn't have a flight director because we do not have an autopilot worked into the actual G1000. That surprises people sometimes, but like I said, it's part of the fun, right? But what we can still do, of course, is do all the fun things here. And I'll go ahead and select our current heading. That looks good to me. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to press heading hold just to grab onto it. This pitch is fine. It's about 7.5 degrees, which allows us to concentrate on what I want to concentrate on. So swinging down here right now, you can see we're pushing 28 inches and about 2350. The big thing that I want to see there is you actually want to pay attention to your CHT, your cylinder head temperature. Now, the reason I like that is this is going to tell you exactly how hard everything is working at this particular time. We can see here that our current engine is pretty darn warm. Like I said, it's not excessive, it's not light. Generally, this is the upper limit of what we're going to allow. And unfortunately, in this particular version, you can't bring up like all the really, really good stuff as far as the details and things like that, which is too bad because we can see the actual numbers on it directly and know exactly how we're doing. But the reality is, this is the thing we're paying attention to because this is going to measure the overall temperature of everything. Oil temperature helps a lot, but oil temperature moves pretty slow. Cylinder head temperature moves pretty fast. Now let's go ahead and get ourselves up to about, let's see, 3,500 feet. Looks pretty good to me. I'm going to engage the altitude hold, and then we're going to play with our things a little bit to kind of show you. Generally, what you would do is after you get to the altitude you choose to climb to, which is the one that we just hit right now, we're going to go ahead and close up the cowl flaps and get ready to do some leaning here. So we'd slam this thing to the floor, which you don't get is in the real world. This has a little like a detent on the inside, so you really push it to the right, pull it down, and then let go, and it kind of snaps left, and it holds it in that position. It goes when you move it up and down also, which is very satisfying. So we're going to pick up some speed really quickly. The Cessna 182 I flew was in miles per hour. It gives you an idea of the age of it. Hey, it still got us there reliably. It was a fantastic plane. The 182 is one of the few planes that I feel like I could land anywhere on the runway. Just tell me where you want it, kind of a thing like that. All right, so now that we're settled, let's go ahead and take a look at the new fun that would happen. The cylinder head temperature, by the way, is going to come up a little bit, and then it's going to come back a little bit as the airspeed basically starts to improve our cooling situation. So the other fun thing that you find really quickly, too, is the way that you can use combinations of power settings that affect comfort. So right now, of course, you can see we're getting a airspeed of 143 knots. We got 28 inches here. We got 2350. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and grab onto the power handle, and I'm going to back this all the way down to 25 inches. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave my RPM alone. So what's going to happen is this aircraft is going to slowly beat off speed. Let's see if I can cheat a little here. Let's see, we're down to 140 knots, so that you can see here that about right. Let's give it a little kick here. 1, 2, 3. I was really smart. I like put my flaps down or something like that. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Actually, I think I did it too far there. Delightful. So we can see we're about 137 knots, about 25 and 2350. So now I'm going to do something a little different. And this is going to seem scandalous to some folks, but watch this. I'm going to take my RPM handle. I'm going to pull it all the way to the bottom of the green arc here. Now, normally we don't go below 2050. 2000 is considered low, and obviously you never go under 2000. So I'm just going to give it a few moments to settle. And you can see here that we're chilling at about 131 knots. But here's where the magic starts. I'm going to increase my manifold pressure. And now if you listened carefully, you probably heard that the engine just got a tiny bit louder, but as a general rule, it didn't get much louder. Now, the other thing hopefully you've been paying really close attention to is your cylinder head temperature this entire time, which you probably observed is the fact my cylinder head temperature came down with the initial, and it stayed down even though I increased my manifold pressure. So let's go ahead and kick up time a little bit here. Now you're observing here the fact that my airspeed is about the same as it was, even though the volume level in this aircraft is completely down, and my cylinder head temperature is actually slightly down as well, because the engine is physically not turning as much as it used to. That was the next big thing that I learned that I thought was very, very shocking about these types of aircraft. So once you kind of get past that, you're like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. I can set the power. Now, of course, this is a turbocharged aircraft. So when it comes to setting my mixture control here, this is a little funky because you don't really touch the mixture in a turboplane. You can, and it depends on the plane, but generally we wouldn't do that for this particular one. Which brings me to the next fun thing about a Cessna 182, which is descending. So as you can see here, we're ripping along very, very, very smoothly. For a moment, we paused time. That's on me. And what do we need to do to actually make this thing go down? So the big kick here is that you want to go ahead and you want to keep your speed and power up. Don't touch it. Just push the nose down. Let me show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and kill the autopilot here. I'm going to push the nose down to here. What you got to do is you got to get below the altitude hold. Again, this does not take much in the real world. And we're going to kick it. Nope. Boo. Boo. See how I try to hold out there? I went pitch. I don't want out. Got it. Okay. So what we have here is we're still on heading hold, which is desirable, but we're holding a pitch where the nose is down about 3.5 degrees. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm intentionally not touching any of my power handles. And the RPM and the power is basically going to be staying the same because of the turbocharger here. One of the things you'll observe, however, is that my airspeed is now creeping into the yellow. As you know from flight school, the yellow is the VNO. Any sudden movements could do damage to the aircraft, including turbulence. But the reality is this is exactly how you controlled what you want it to do. Now, the cool thing is most of the time what you can do is you can tap the up key a couple times here. There it goes. And you can see it'll actually levels off here. So it's going to have a much reduced vertical speed, and it's going to get us out of the no zone. At the same time as I'm leaving my power alone, and you can actually see my cylinder head temperature's going to stay pretty constant here, which means we're going to have plenty of control, and our engine is going to be carefully preserved during our descent here, so we have no concerns. Now, one of the cool things you can do with these aircraft, let me go ahead and back the power off to 25 here. And let me go ahead and kick the RPM up to our climb RPM. See how it gets a lot louder? You don't realize how loud it is until you suddenly go back up to climb RPM. Now, the cool thing here is if you look, you can see we're chilling right at the bottom of the VNO here. This is the safe speed to descend. But the other thing you're observing is the fact that we're only doing 300 feet per minute down. We're not going down very much right here, which is actually very, very accurate. You wouldn't have a very aggressive descent. And the other nice thing about this descent is I'm not hurting the passenger's ears. So that's another cool thing. But one of the tricks we learned, and this is kind of fun, is if you come down here, you will notice my flaps are valid until 140 knots. So that means what we could actually do, and we've done this a few times with the 182, especially if you're like trying to come down, is we could temporarily reduce power a little bit, and you could click in one push of flaps, and then you could put the power back up to where you had it. Again, it would be 2450. But because of that little tiny crack of flaps you see here, what you'll observe is we've lost about 5 or 6 knots. So if I were to actually stick my nose down even further like this aircraft would perfectly happily descend at 850 feet per minute without doing anything untoward to any of our power settings. That was the next big thing I had to learn about the 182, which worked really, really well for me. These kinds of things were like what you needed because routinely you're flying 8,000 or 9,000 feet and you want it to come down, this year. So that would be one of the tricks we would utilize for that exact purpose. Enjoy.